Sometimes you catch your reflection and just for a second you think, huh, is that new?
Right. We all get those little reminders about time passing.
But what if that little nudge became like this huge, overwhelming dread, a constant fear?
Well, that's when we start talking about Gerascophobia. It's a specific and very real fear of getting older.
Gerascophobia. Okay. Where does the name come from?
It's Greek. Gerasco means I grow old, and, well, phobos is fear. So, yeah, literally fear of growing old.
Got it. Now, our sources also mention another term, gerontophobia. Is that the same thing, or?
Ah, good question. There's definitely overlap, and sometimes people use them interchangeably, but technically, gerontophobia is often more about a fear of elderly people.
Oh, interesting. Like seeing them reminds you of.
Exactly. That whole memento mori thing, a reminder of death.
Hmm.
Gerascophobia, though, is really focused inward on your own aging process.
Okay, makes sense. So today's deep dive is really going to unpack Gerascophobia itself. We want to understand, based on our sources, what makes it a proper phobia?
Yeah, what the signs are, maybe where it comes from, and crucially, what kind of help is out there.
Right. We're using the material we both looked at to explore all that.
Exactly. And the first big point from the sources is that this isn't just, like, not liking the idea of aging.
No.
It's classified as a specific phobia. That means the fear is way out of proportion to any real danger.
Even if someone's perfectly healthy.
Even then, the fear persists. Irrationality is kind of key here.
So it's not just about the number of candles on the cake. What are the deeper worries driving this, according to the research?
Well, the sources point to a few big ones. A major concern is often losing youthfulness, physical appearance, things our culture tends to value really highly, maybe too highly.
Good point. And what else?
Then there's the fear of losing independence, not being able to get around easily, needing help.
Yeah, that's a big one for many people, I think.
Definitely. And, of course, worries about getting sick, declining physical health, but also mental health, like memory loss or dementia. These anxieties all kind of bundle together.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? Why do we focus so much on youth? Maybe that focus itself actually feeds these fears.
That's a really sharp observation. It certainly seems plausible that the cultural pressure contributes.
So if those are the fears underneath, how does this actually look day to day? What signs would tell you this fear is really taking hold?
Our sources mention some key things. One is putting enormous effort into stopping or reversing aging signs, like pursuing lots of cosmetic procedures or having these incredibly intense, time-consuming anti-aging routines for skin, hair, everything.
Almost like a battle against time?
Yeah, a losing battle, ultimately. Another sign is avoidance.
Avoiding what?
Mirrors, for example. Someone might genuinely avoid looking at their reflection because they're terrified of spotting a new wrinkle or gray hair.
Wow.
And one source even mentioned anxiety about, get this, growing taller.
Taller? How does that fit?
Because it symbolizes moving further away from childhood, from youth. It just shows how deep this specific fear can run.
That detail really sticks with you. It's not just surface level at all.
Not at all. And emotionally, the toll is huge. We're talking intense anxiety, maybe even panic attacks, just thinking about aging.
And that often goes hand in hand with feeling down, depressed.
Very often, yes. Low mood depression is frequently linked.
It sounds like it could completely take over someone's life. The sources said it's pretty rare, though, right? But there's that one case study.
Yes, documented cases aren't numerous, but the one involving a 14-year-old boy in Mexico is quite striking. He was diagnosed at 12.
12! Wow! What was happening with him?
The specialists noted really high anxiety linked to any physical sign of growth or aging.
And what did he do because of that anxiety?
Some really extreme things. He would actually, hunch his body over to try and seem shorter.
Seriously?
Yes. And he cut back on food drastically, apparently hoping to, stunt his growth.
Oh, my goodness.
And even changed his voice, tried to speak in a higher pitch to sound younger.
That's heartbreaking, really. It just shows the desperate measures this fear can drive someone to.
It really does. It powerfully illustrates the impact.
So why? Why does this happen? What are the theories behind Gerascophobia?
Well, our sources highlight a couple of main theoretical ideas. One is called terror management theory.
Okay, terror management. What's the gist?
It's from Greenberg and Solomon. The basic idea is that humans are, unique in knowing that we're going to die. And this awareness can create a deep underlying terror.
Right, mortality.
Exactly. And aging is this constant, unavoidable reminder of that mortality, of our limited time. So Any sign of getting older can trigger that fundamental fear.
And that fear can then escalate into a phobia for some people.
Potentially, yes. It's not just about the wrinkles themselves. It's what they represent, that slow march towards the end, especially in a culture that maybe tries to push death away.
Well, it makes a certain kind of intuitive sense. What's the other main theory?
That would be stereotype embodiment theory. This one focuses more on society and culture.
Right.
It looks at the impact of all the stereotypes about aging we absorb growing up. Think about how older people are often shown in, say, movies or books.
Often not very flattering, right? I remember the source mentioning that Roald Dahl example.
Ah, yes. George's marvelous medicine, the grisly old grunion of a grandma.
Exactly. A very vivid negative image.
And it's not just fiction. In general, aging gets linked with decline, with disease, dementia, Alzheimer's, high blood pressure.
Yeah. So the theory is we hear all this negative stuff.
And we start to internalize it. We develop these negative beliefs about our own future aging process. And that negativity, that fear, can fuel anxiety and maybe even tip over into Gerascophobia.
So society's own negativity about getting old can kind of boomerang back onto individuals.
It seems that way.
Yeah.
It's quite sobering to think how these cultural messages might be shaping deep anxieties. Makes you question those messages, doesn't it?
It really does. Okay, so we have these potential roots: fear of death, negative stereotypes. But the good news is our sources mentioned ways to help people struggling with this.
Absolutely. A key starting point is understanding how the individual sees the threat of aging. From there, psychotherapy is often very successful.
Like talking therapy.
Yes, typically one-on-one sessions. The therapist helps the person to, identify those really negative thoughts and behaviors and then works with them to change them.
Was there a specific kind mentioned?
The sources pointed to a mentalization-based approach.
Mentalization.
Yeah, it focuses on helping the person understand their own mind better. Like, why are they having these intense fears? How are their thoughts feeding the anxiety? It's about building self-awareness around those mental processes.
That sounds incredibly useful. What about medication? Does that play a role?
It can, sometimes. Medication might be used to manage symptoms like severe anxiety or depression that often come with the phobia.
But it doesn't fix the root cause.
Likely not the core phobia itself, no. But it can definitely help alleviate some of the immediate distress, which is important.
Okay. And the main therapy for specific phobias, according to the material, was exposure therapy.
That's right. It's considered a really robust treatment. The idea is to gradually and safely expose the person to the thing they fear, the idea of aging.
How does that work in practice? You can't exactly expose someone to getting old instantly.
No, of course not. It's more about confronting the thoughts and concepts of aging, maybe looking at pictures, talking about the future, imagining scenarios. Crucially, while doing this, they learn relaxation techniques, and the option to just avoid the topic is removed.
And the goal is?
To gradually learn that the feared outcome, aging, isn't the catastrophe they imagine it to be, to essentially retrain the brain's fear response.
Okay, so let's try and sum this up. Gerascophobia. It's this intense, irrational fear of your own aging process.
Driven by deep anxieties, losing youth, looks, independence, health.
And it can lead to some pretty extreme behaviors, like we saw with the avoidance or the anti-aging obsessions.
And the roots seem to lie in both that fundamental human fear of death and maybe the negative ways our society talks about and portrays getting older.
But importantly, there are ways to get help. Psychotherapy, especially approaches that build self-awareness like mentalization and particularly exposure therapy, seem promising according to our sources.
Definitely. It's clear this goes way beyond just wishing you didn't have wrinkles. It's a profound, life-disrupting fear for those affected.
It really is. And thinking about that societal angle you mentioned, it makes you wonder, doesn't it?
How so?
Well, given how much our culture seems to idolize youth and, let's face it, often talks pretty negatively about aging, how much might that be contributing to general anxiety about getting older, even for people who don't have a full-blown phobia?
That's the big question, isn't it? It invites a bit of reflection for all of us listening. Think about the messages you've picked up about aging. Do you see any of that cultural anxiety reflected in your own thoughts or just in how we talk about it generally?
Yeah, it's definitely something to mull over our personal views versus the broader cultural narrative around the whole journey of aging.